Alright, welcome to the Matter Study Guide review. We're going to go over this review sheet and fill in the answers, and I'm going to try my best to make sure that I am filling in and typing in what you need. So I'm going to try to change my color and make this so that you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. We're going to start with the first one. Matter is anything that takes up, the word here you should have written in is space. Oops, it should not be capitalized. Sorry about that. Space. And has, and the word here is mass. Oops. I'm going to fix that color. Mass. Okay. All things are made of matter. Doesn't matter what it is, it has matter. Matter has properties. Properties describe the shape, size, color, hardness, buoyancy, like whether it sinks or floats, and more about matter. So here you're going to describe the properties of a solid and a liquid in your home. So if you were doing this at home, you would just look around you and find a solid, write it down. I'm going to choose to write down something that I look around and see, and I see a chair in front of me. The properties I see in this chair are, and I'm going to change that color, I'm sorry, that's going to probably drive you all crazy. Let's see if I can get it to stay there. Alright, so I see it's green. It has scratches on it, but it's smooth, and it's hard. It's the green rocking chair that's sitting in my room, here in the classroom. But it's green, it's smooth, and it's hard. Alright, a liquid that I have is tea. So you can think of any liquid that maybe you're drinking as you're studying, or maybe that you had for lunch or for dinner, like milk or coffee. Not coffee, you guys. I drink coffee. If you know Miss Brazel, you know Miss Brazel drinks coffee. It could be juice, whatever you want, water, whatever liquid you want. And the properties would be brown, and it is thin. It's not a thick liquid. Tea is very thin, and it can be also sticky if you touch it, and it has a sweet smell. So those are some of the properties of the liquid that I have to describe, and your liquid may be different. If you put shampoo down or whatever you put, I don't know. Whatever you choose here is fine. Just name some of the properties you observe about it, what you see or smell or feel, that kind of thing. Alright, there are three states of matter: solids, liquids, and gases. Please be familiar with the first two. We have really studied solids and liquids because those are our standards in second grade, and we've really focused on those. So, our first box says, solids have a shape of their own. For example, if I put a banana in a box, it keeps its shape. It is still a banana. It doesn't turn into something else. It doesn't mold to the shape of the box or anything like that. It's a banana, and it just stays like that. And so you are listing three solids here that are any three solids. So you might list like a box and a desk, and a book. And I'm just thinking of things that are close by here that I could easily identify, but you can list any three objects that you want to list. Here, liquids. Liquids take on the shape of their container. For example, if I put water in a cup, it will take the shape of the cup. If I put it in a bottle, it will take the shape of the bottle. In my classroom, I poured water into a tall, thin cup, and it filled up the entire little cup, and I used a 1 cup measuring cup to do that. So that 1 cup of water filled up the entire cup because it was a tall, thin cup. And then I had a big, wide bowl, and I poured that same cup of water into that bowl, and it spread out and barely took up any space because it just took up the space of the container. It's going to take that shape of that container. So it's kind of cool the way liquid just takes up the shape of the container. You're going to list 3 more examples of a liquid. I'm going to put soda down, whatever you call it, Coke, pop, whatever you call it, any soda. You can put Sprite, you can put Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, whatever you like, milk, and shampoo. Any of these liquids are fine to put in. Any liquid you put down is fine as long as it is a liquid. Okay, water can change into all three states of matter. Water is a liquid, but when heat is added or taken away, it changes into other states of matter. When water freezes, it becomes a solid called ice. So if you were in Miss Brazel's classroom, you might got, and in other classrooms might have done this as well, I don't know, but we took some ice and we watched it melt a little bit, and then we added it to a burner and watched it melt all the way down, added heat to it, and then watched it start to boil and steam, which ended up being a gas we talked about, and watched it kind of steam, and we talked about evaporation. We put a lid on and watched the water condense on the lid, and we set the cup out, and we're going to see what happens to the water after a few days. So we're going to see what's going to happen to that water when heat is added or taken away. And we also talked about that if we put that water back into the freezer, it would become solid again, and that would become ice. So it was kind of a fun experiment, and to see water changing. Matter can be changed by mixing, cutting, cooking, and burning. Cutting and mixing changes the shape of the matter. It just changes the way it looks. You cut or mix something up, paper, it's going to change the way the matter looks, but in the way it's shaped or the way, but it doesn't really change the mass. It's still the same amount of paper or the same amount of matter in the object. You didn't take anything away or burn anything or cook anything. We're just talking about cutting and mixing here. So I'm just going to bold those two words right there for this study guide for you to think about that. We're not talking about cooking or burning. We're just talking about how matters change with cutting and mixing. The mass stays the same unless something is added or taken away. What are we talking about here? We're talking about adding or removing what? And that is heat. Heat is the big key. And I'm going to change that to red, like I have on my poster in my room, heat. When you add heat or you take heat away, it can change even a solid into something different. Like a solid ice cube can be changed into liquid. So it is changed with heat. Okay, we're going to continue on with our review sheet. I'm going to move this down. You're turning yours over on the back to continue yours. So here we have, in a reversible change, matter can be changed back to the way it was. It may not be looking exactly the same, but it is pretty much back to the way it was. So a mixture, like a Chex Mix. And it would help if I could type. I'm sure y'all are tired of me saying that. Talking and typing are not Miss Brazel's strong suits. Pretty much doing anything, two things at one time. Okay, so Chex Mix is something that can be turned into, is a mixture, and if you poured all the Chex Mix together and all the pretzels and the little pieces and the nuts or whatever you had, and then you could pull it all out and separate it all back out, and it would still be Chex Mix. So, or it would still be different, separate things. Water is also another example. If I can type. Water, like melting or freezing it. When you melt or freeze water, or really any liquid for that matter, but if you melt or freeze something, you're not really changing any of the it's not an irreversible change. You can melt water, and it melts, and then you could put it back in the freezer and back into ice cubes, and you would get ice cubes again. So it definitely, sometimes people do that if their ice cream sits out a little bit, they'll put it back in the freezer and it freezes, hardens back up a little bit. So it may not be exactly the same, but it's still edible and not so bad. Okay, a solution is another thing that can be reversed. A solution, and we will talk about this if you're watching this before we get to it, is dissolving like salt into water. and if you evaporated the water back out, the salt would be left behind. So you could separate the two back out, and you would still have the salt, and then the water would be evaporated, but it still is water vapor, so it is a reversible change. Now, with an irreversible change, it is matter that cannot be changed back in any way, shape, or form. Once it's done, it's stuck. It's not going to change back. So we have 3 irreversible changes you can list, like cooking an egg is one, baking a cake, baking anything, cooking anything, truly anything you bake or cook, if you put it in the oven or bake it on the stove or cook it on the stove, cook it on the stove or bake it in the oven, it's going to be irreversible. Once you added all those ingredients in, it's not changing back. The next thing, rust. When rust is formed, it's irreversible. It's like a chemical reaction, and it is not going to reverse. And the last thing I was going to put down here is burning something like wood, like a fire. The smoke and the gases that are given off, that kind of thing, that is an irreversible change. Or burning, if a house was to catch on fire, or a forest or anything like that, it's an irreversible change. It cannot be changed back to the way it was. Okay, so we have a mixture. A mixture is made when 2 or more things come together. So it asks for you to list some examples of a mixture. So just think about things that we've talked about in class, or things that you can think of that you could mix together. I think we've talked about salad or fruit salad, any kind of salad. And a potting soil is another one. It has like sand in it, and it has other different dirt elements that are different things in it together, and that's what you use to plant your plants in. When your toys, you might have a mixture of toys. You may have several different kinds, or your clothes in your drawer. You may have your socks and t-shirts in one drawer, and your shorts and pants in another drawer, that kind of thing. So you might have different things. Anyway, this is our review sheet. Just plan to check over your test, and your review sheet, so that you're ready for your test whenever it is in your classroom. And you can use your science journals or your book, and this review sheet will help you with the test. Good luck. Thanks for tuning in.